Hello and welcome back to the Adventures of Lola Badiola. In the last chapter, Lola was making a speech to her new colleagues when her mind went completely blank. Now you're probably wondering what happened next. Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to wait a few episodes to find out. Because right now, we are returning to the situation of Luis Brunha, Lola's ex-boss. We are going to discover how he and his team are coping after the loss of their star performer, their rainmaker. We will also discuss the common expressions, phrasal verbs, and business concepts that are used in the text. So, without any further delay, let's go back to the story.
The Adventures of Lola Badiola. Chapter 8. The Attack. Luis Brunha opened the front door of his house and tiptoed in, quietly shutting the door behind him. It was past midnight, and he'd spent the last 18 hours dealing with a crisis at Texpania. Lying at the bottom of the stairs was his 6-year-old son, Chema. The little boy was deep asleep. Luis picked him up and took him to his bedroom. He laid the little boy gently in the bed and put the sheet on top of him, watching him breathe slowly and peacefully. He kissed him on the forehead and left the room. Then he went to check on his wife. She was still awake, lying in bed reading a novel. "Hey, sweetie." "Hi." She didn't look up from her book, and it was clear from the tone of her voice she was in a bad mood. "I'll come to bed in a few minutes." Luis went back downstairs for a whiskey. He didn't have the energy for a late-night fight about work-life balance. It had been a day of non-stop stress. At 6 a.m. that morning, one of his clients, SMZ, a Swiss life insurance company, had been shut down by a ransomware attack. The hackers had exploited a vulnerability in the Spanish branch of the company. They had locked the company database and given the company 12 hours to transfer 100 Bitcoin, more than 4 million euros, to an untraceable digital wallet. If the money didn't arrive on time, they promised to unleash a virus that would disrupt their systems for days and weeks to come. Luis and his team of engineers had spent the whole day brainstorming ideas, writing code, and communicating with their colleagues in Switzerland. With 2 hours to go until the deadline, the CTO arrived in Madrid on a private jet from Zurich. He would have been the image of business sophistication if his face weren't red with anger and stress. The company's reputation was at risk. People's jobs were on the line, including his own. "Where are we?" he said brusquely. "Let me take you through our plan of defense," replied Luis, with as much confidence as he could summon. At that moment, he truly missed Lola. She had managed the SMZ account. She knew the client inside out. She'd even learned some basic German to enhance the relationship. She would have been able to reassure the client and deal with the crisis. But she had resigned from the company a month earlier, and Luis still hadn't found a suitable replacement. With an hour to go until the deadline, the CTO started to take the necessary steps to transfer the Bitcoin to the digital wallet. There was only one thing left that Luis could do: organize an emergency meeting with the North Americans. Just like in Europe, the US cybersecurity market was a virtual monopoly. Despite being competitors at a global level, Texpania and its US equivalent had agreed to come together in moments of crisis to share their expertise. A high-profile breach of security, like the one that SMZ was experiencing, eroded the trust of the entire sector. It was, therefore, in everyone's interest that this problem was resolved quietly and competently. During the emergency meeting, it became apparent that the ransomware code was almost identical to the one used to break into a life insurance company based in New Jersey earlier in the year. With the collaboration of IT experts in the US, Luis and his team were able to design a program to override the malware and neutralize its effect. With less than 15 minutes remaining, SMZ's systems were unlocked and an upgraded firewall was put in place. The Bitcoin transfer was cancelled and the company's reputation was saved, but nobody celebrated. Luis knew that this was probably the end of the relationship with the SMZ company and the loss of more than $1 million of revenue per year. He would have to explain the situation to Ruiz de Velasco at the next morning meeting, a prospect he dreaded. As he sat on his sofa in the darkness, he took another sip of his whiskey and wondered how his department was going to hit its budget, let alone its stretch targets, without the Swiss life insurance account. He also wondered how on earth he was going to be able to replace Lola Badiola. He heard the footsteps of his wife coming down the stairs. She was wearing a dressing gown and slippers. She sat down next to him on the sofa, reached for his glass of whiskey and took a small sip. "You want to talk about it?" she asked softly.